Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Hello! I finally decided to film this video that I've been putting off for many weeks. So a couple of months ago, I stumbled upon this big pile of art that was very old and very uncategorized. So ever since then, I was kind of sitting on it and just putting it off because I wanted to organize it somewhat and then show you guys my old art. So this is effectively an old art sketchbook tour, but as you can see, it's not a sketchbook, it's just a bunch of piles of loose paper. And the reason why I preferred loose paper is because it was much easier to scan, much easier to deal with, and I prefer for my hand to be flat on the paper against the surface of the table. Without further ado, I'm going to show you my old art. So the oldest stuff here is from around high school when I was 15, and it is going to be mostly commissions. Like, this whole tour will be old commissions. I mean, there's no like particular reason for that, but I did produce like a ton of art and I kept most of it, well, at least 80% of it probably, I'm gonna say, and I wanted to divide it into different categories, and plus, like, the way that I kept it through the years, I just happened to pile all the commissioned loose paper into one pile. So that's the pile that I found that I'm going to be showing to you guys. Sorry about the super long intro, but here we go. So I'm just gonna go like this because I think this is going to be somewhat chronological. So here's the first thing. And as you can see, it's from 2005, and this is going to be pretty cringy for me to look at because it's so old. So I was 15 at the time, and I was on this website called Gaia Online, and that was essentially my first art community. I think this is a little bit older, but yeah, essentially what these are, for some reason I had this habit of cutting them out, which was kind of ridiculous, so now it's like extremely annoying to keep this paper because they're all different sizes. And yeah, these were requests for Gaia Gold. I guess they're my first commissions that involved no actual monetary transactions, but people paid some Gaia Gold for these, and at the time I was totally obsessed with doing this stuff. It was so fun. It was really fun to be a part of a community. And yeah, I participated in it a lot. And I think I joined like right about when I was in grade 9, so when I was 14. And this is when I started like actively participating and drawing people's avatars. You can just see how dated these are from like the types of clothes that these avatars wear. Like, you never see these fans anymore. They haven't been around for like 15 years at least. It's pretty funny. But yeah, as you can see, my art from around this time was it was kind of flip-floppy. I was very much into this heavy line art type of style, I guess, if you can call this a style. But yeah, I also kind of went back and forth between different types of eyes and like this type of finish. So it was very experimental at that time, and essentially mostly what I was into, from what I can remember, is trying to master the tools that I had at my disposal, of which there were very few. So this is just like a pencil. I think it was like just mechanical pencil. So I was trying to get as much out of it as I could. And with the other ones that you've seen, this was done with some Micron inks and a couple of Prismacolor markers that I stole from my brother that he was no longer using. So yeah, and as you can see, like, you can tell that these all look very similar because I did not have a lot of colors to work with. I think I had like about 10 markers or so. So that is where my preference for limited color palettes, I guess, came in. And yeah, there's gonna be a few of these. This was not a commission, it was just like Naruto fan art, and I was absolutely obsessed with Naruto. You can probably kind of tell where it rubbed off on my style. Not this one in particular, but the other ones. But yeah, so I was just, you know, trying to be neat is always something that I try to do. This is a more loose thing that's not cleaned up. And then I have all these tiny cleaned up. Oh my god, what is this? Where did this go? I didn't even notice this when I was. Anyways, there's a little pencil drawing at the back. Let me see, what is this? I guess this is, I was obsessed with Death Note. Okay. This is a gender bend of Death Note, you guys. I don't. I'm gonna cut that. Anyways. So this is another one of those little commissions. I gotta speed this up because I have a lot of things to go through. So yeah, as you can see, my other gigantic problem as an artist back then was drawing like the tiniest pieces of art you could possibly imagine. So I don't know why, it's always been something I did. Still regrettable, something I'm still trying to like break out of to no apparent success. But I mean, I've definitely graduated from this size, alright, so I've made some progress. But yeah, as you can see, this is just some more experimentation with the medium. So I was trying to like do some sort of shading with the Micron pens. Not the best look, but hey, I tried a lot of different stuff around that time. So that's it. Oh, there's like a couple more of those. They all kind of look the same, so you guys get the gist. And then when I think I started, I mean, I pretty much went back and forth between pencil and inks, but I started trying to add more texture into pencil. So that's an example of that. I have no idea what the context of this is, so whatever. Yeah, and then I also, when I was around 17, so a couple years after these things that I just showed you, I got my first tiny little tablet that I was experimenting with. So as you can see, I'm just using like the most basic of brushes and trying to figure out how to make digital art. Pretty underwhelming stuff. So there you go. Those are like some of the first experimentations that I had with digital art, and I printed them out because I liked to always look at things in my hands. And that would be the last, like, kind of a larger Gaia online commission type of thing. So
before I move on to the next file, I'd like to take a minute to tell you about this video's sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform with thousands of classes on a huge variety of artistic and creative topics that range from drawing, illustration, and animation, all the way to photography, self-care, productivity, organization, and so much more. These classes are perfect for curious people who love to learn new things, and there's no shortage of interesting topics if you browse this platform. I'm personally very interested in hand lettering and just lettering in general, and I'm very excited to check out some of these hand lettering classes, especially the vintage looking ones, when I have some free time this summer. There are so many of them, and they all look very good, so I am very excited to learn how to get better at hand lettering. The first 1,000 people who use the link in my description will receive a 1-month free trial to Skillshare Premium. And now back to the video.
Now I'm going to move on to the next pile, which is the 2006 to 2008 pile. Obviously, like I mentioned, also commissions. So this, I think, is when I started. By the way, I totally dropped like this whole pile of art on the floor, and I didn't notice that a bunch of the papers went under my couch, and then like a week later I spilled a bunch of coffee off of my desk, and unfortunately a ton of that coffee landed on the papers that were still under the couch, and that's the explanation for all these stains. But yeah, so this is when I pretty quickly became aware that I just love working with clean lines and ink pens. So these are still microns. I used microns for many years, and I was like trying to be a little more experimental with the things that I did, like leaving some details out of the legs and stuff. And as you can clearly see, I was pretty obsessed with clothing detail, a running theme in my art to this day. But yeah, so I believe that I think these were paid. I think I charged like $15 at that time for commissions, maybe like per character. I hope per character. I have no recollection of that, but I'm just gonna assume that that's what that was. But yeah, so these are actual paid commissions. So this is pretty much the first time I started taking paid commissions. I obviously don't have a lot of them because a lot of them I did mail to, like physically mail to the people who ordered them. But I suppose these ones were, I don't know, scan only, digital only or something. So that's why I still have them. And yeah, I clearly leveled up quite a bit with these when it comes to pen technique. I definitely like one of the best decisions that I made was letting go of the super heavy line weight type of style, where the line weight is pretty arbitrary and it's kind of all over the place, and it just gives the whole thing a very amateurish impression where it just looks like I'm trying to like correct the lines post hoc, whereas here I decided to move on to a more clean, even line approach and then fill in some areas in black afterwards. This is definitely direct influence from reading a lot of manga at the time, especially D. Gray Man. Like, I was obsessed with D. Gray Man art, and you can probably tell just by looking at this. So yeah, next. And I also started trying to use different colored pens. I think I saw some brown microns and those looked interesting, so I got them and I did a bunch of commissions in brown. Yeah, like looking back at these now, I'm pretty impressed with some of these decisions. Like, I feel like I was more bold with doing these things back then. Like, I don't know why I decided not to put any detail and just leave the leg silhouette only, but I think it's pretty neat, and it really like forces you to only really look at this area, which is kind of neat. Like, I don't remember doing that a whole lot afterwards, but yeah, I was pretty experimental back then, if you can call this experimental, I guess. But yes, so these are obviously commissions. They're other people's characters. This one must have been from the same batch. I really wish that I dated more of them. I put dates on some of them, like as you can see, this one has an 06, so that was from 2006 when I was 16, and I mean, this just looks the same, so it's probably from around the same time. And then this one is 2007. So yeah, I remember I took a trip to the States where I went, I think it was like my first time going to a convention or something, and there was a store called Kinokuniya. It's still around. It's like the best store. I really wish they had one in Canada. But yeah, so I picked up some screen tones, like legit screen tones that you have to cut out with an X-Acto knife, and I experimented with those, but they were kind of expensive, and unfortunately I was just stingy, so I didn't use them a lot, and I probably ended up throwing a bunch of them out because they just eventually, you know, unstuck and just whatever, I lost track of them. But yeah, it was really fun to experiment with those. So yeah, pretty cool effect. As you can see, still obsession with fashion details going strong. Yes, and then I remember this from like a little bit later in high school, so it's probably still 2007, but I started to really kind of get obsessed with more folds in clothes, so just like more details when it comes to clothes. And my faces were still really wonky at this point, and I remember being very unhappy with them, but I just kind of kept going, and eventually you will see they will even out. Like the facial features were kind of wandering at this point. And also, this is all of these that you've been looking at were drawn with me knowing absolutely nothing about anatomy, like zero. I had zero anatomy experience. I didn't know anything about any sort of structure. It was all pure guessing and just assumptions, which I, looking back now, think is not bad. You know, it was not that bad, but there's still some pretty glaring errors, especially when there's not that much clothing on the character. So but yeah, it's just interesting to note that I don't think you need like anatomical knowledge right away. Like, you can still get relatively far without it, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so this is also from around the same era, also commissioned. And this one is one of my favorites still. There's just something about these pants and legs that I very much like to this point. But I've also always had trouble doing, just making it obvious that the foot, this is like the outer edge of the foot versus the inner side of the foot, with shoes and stuff. It's kind of hard for me to draw shoe shapes even now, but I think I've gotten a lot better at it over the years. Here's some detailed shots. I also remember one of the best things about this pen was that it was dyeing. So using dyeing ink pens was like such a blessing because they weren't so bleedy and you can kind of get a little bit of line variety. So that was my absolute favorite stage of a micron pen when it's about to dye. And that's from around the same time. As you can see, like, I tried a bit of a different approach with the way that I depicted bolds, and I mean, there's not a whole lot I can say. It's pretty broken. Heads are gigantic, but yes, this was 2008. So yeah, and style, like, I feel like this is when it's kind of like detail nitpicky, but I just wanted to point out that this is where the faces are finally starting to come together, right? So here you can see the nose, like, I don't even know what's going on there, but here it's starting to kind of actually resemble a nose, although there's still some wandering features thing going on. So yeah, and this is also when it's about the same time when I'm trying to draw a nose. I think this was a little bit earlier, actually. This was around the same time that I did that. But yeah, these are bigger for whatever reason. Very, very uncommon for me. Yeah, I believe these were also some commissions. And maybe the reason why I did these bigger is because I scanned them in and I remember coloring these in Photoshop. So that is probably why. And there's some more from around this time, and yeah, as you can see, the faces are kind of starting to come together, although I noticed that I had this very consistent habit of drawing the mouth like way too low on the face. I don't even know what is with that. I feel like these days I do kind of like the exact opposite, but anyways, this was years ago, and I'm trying to remember what this even is. I think this is like fan art. I don't know. Yeah, it's some sort of manga. Something Go. Hikaru no Go? Yeah, that was it. So, just some fan art. I like how clean and more coherent the line work has become in my art around this time. And there's a digital sketch that I printed out. It's also commission. And commission. Yeah, these are all pretty much commissions. I think this one was actually Fiona. I don't know why. I think I saw a picture of this apron somewhere and I just really wanted to draw Fiona wearing it. And oh yeah, okay, this is why the faces look different. I was obsessed with Hitman Reborn manga at the time, and it really did kind of crawl into my style little by little, so that would explain the facial structure changes or whatever. I'm pretty happy with these shoes. It's always difficult for me to draw shoes, but I've always been very, very obsessed with drawing shoes as well. And a little commission. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next pile, which is going to be this pile. This one is, okay, I'm just gonna explain as I go along. All right, so I had this side job slash, I guess, part-time job of doing these little illustrations for a website called Earnia.com, kind of similar to Guy Online actually. And I was just doing the art for their monthly avatar donation items that they released. And so I did that for like a couple of years at least, every month. So there's a ton of those. And those are always interesting to look at for me, kind of, because you can really tell if I was in a terrible mood and didn't want to draw. I mean, I can tell, but I don't know if it's that visible otherwise. But yeah, the thing about these is that for the first time, these were kind of like commissions. Like the prices weren't all that different. They were a little bit higher than my regular commissions that I offered, but it was kind of like client work in a sense that there were very strict deadlines because they needed the art before they can release the items every month. So I was on the hook for delivering at the end of every month, and it was tough, you guys. Like, it was very difficult for me to keep up with this because I was also a student, obviously, at the same time, and yeah, some of them are just not that great. Like, this one would be one of them where I'm just not very inspired and I have to get it done, so I just have to get it done. And yeah, there are a ton of these. I'm going to try to find the digital, oh yeah, something I failed to mention. These are all sketches for done to be scanned and cleaned up and colored digitally, so that's what these are for. And I'm gonna see if I can find some of the finished digital artwork to show you guys side by side. I don't know if I'm just going through these like really quickly, but I'll definitely find a few to just like show you what they look like. And this was one of the first ones, I believe, with like these are the NPCs. So I was commissioned to design all the NPCs in the website, like all the little shop owners and such. So those are it, and yeah, that's also them. So those are some of the first things that I did for this job. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely something that was up my alley, but like I said, it became very difficult for me to keep up with on a monthly basis, and it ended up being very miserable for me. But it definitely helped. That little bit, the little bit of income as a student was definitely great, even though it wasn't a whole lot. Yeah. There were a lot of pretty interesting items that they released, but sometimes they were pretty boring, so yeah. These are also the initial NPC drawings. Yes. And now I'm gonna show you a bunch of my designs for keychains. So back when I used to do the convention circuit, very lazily might I add, I only had like essentially two products: prints and these laminated keychains that were a ridiculous amount of work for what they were. So like I said, these are pretty much in the same style. Like, I would draw the sketches on paper, as you can see, and then I would scan them in, clean them up, and digitally color them. And then I would print them out all in a big sheet with like a bunch of them filled, and I would cut all of them out individually by hand, and then laminate all of them and cut them out again and do the little hole punch thing, and those were my products. It's ridiculous thinking back on it, how much manual labor it required, but it was also a good income supplement for a broke student, so no regrets there, I suppose. Yeah, I don't really know why I went so hard on the keychain route instead of just making prints like most other people were doing, seemingly. And I also don't know why I abandoned it hard when people started to pivot towards making like real products made out of plastic that were ordered to be manufactured elsewhere. I was totally checked out by that point, so I never got to actually make any of those nicer products. So yeah, my last attempt at keychains was these super shitty laminated handmade ones, but it was a lot of fun. I never ended up making this one, unfortunately, even though she was one of my favorite characters from The Gray Man, but yeah, those were some good times. It was fun. And I never made this one of Lavi either, unfortunately. Yeah, these are a little bit older, but these are Death Note characters. And also did random things that I had no idea what they were, but seemed to be popular at the time, like Vocaloid and this Blackrock shooter character. Yeah, the things I did to earn a living. There's some more random one-offs of fan art. Yeah, I did really like this Gurren Lagann anime a lot, but I did not watch a whole lot of anime. I mostly just read a ton of manga, and then I think in my early 20s I kind of just fell off of that completely and stopped reading it, so I am totally out of the loop at this point. yeah, so these were all the keychain designs / Urnia commissions. And now I'm gonna move on to the next pile, which a lot of which unfortunately also got hit with the coffee, but that's okay. So these are more commissions from a later time. So I believe these must be from like 2010. So yeah, I had to have been around like 19 or 20 at the time of doing these. Maybe even 21. I don't remember, but yeah. As you can see, my anatomy improved significantly. And at this point, it was still based on observation mostly, I think. Depending, I don't know, I'm trying to remember when I did these. I can't remember, but so yeah, these were also all sketched traditionally, scanned in, cleaned up, inked, etc. I'll try to see if I can find them. These are some random doodles. And yeah, there's a ton of these commissions. Yeah, the reason why I actually have all of these is precisely because they were digital commissions. So, okay, so I had to take a small break, unfortunately, for unforeseen circumstances, but I'm back. I'm trying to remember what I was talking about before I left. Yes, I think I was saying that I have all these sketches because they were all digital commissions. And as you can see, this is actually what I worked with for right before inking. So even back then, I guess I did 2 passes. So there's like the green underpass, like of the first sketch, with some corrections. As you can see, the ghosts of the erased limbs and whatnot. And then I essentially just outlined it very neatly with a pencil and then scanned it in and then did the digital inking pass over this. So yeah, I'll try to find these and put them on this side of the screen, hopefully. And what's next? There's another one. I do believe I took a little bit of a an experimental painterly approach with this one. It was not actually painterly, but to me, I was like making some radical moves. I'll point it out. I think I did some fancy things with the shading of the bow, but yeah, hopefully I can find the digital file later to show you. And oh yeah, for this one, clearly I was too lazy to do a secondary sketch, but this one actually ended up being one of my favorite commissions that I've done. Like, it's funny because most of these do look kind of shitty in retrospect. Like, if I look back on them, I can see a lot of mistakes and stuff, and I get bothered by a lot of things, but this one in particular, the finished version, I was very happy with, and I still think it looks pretty nice. Although obviously I can see a lot of errors now. Yeah, I just think there's something about the poses of the characters that really worked in this one. Some more, I think these might have been like real people, like some sort of from a band or something. Yeah, I don't remember, but yes, obviously. Commissions. Yeah. As you can see, sometimes I will like clean up an area that I am not 100% sure about and then leave everything else because it's more straightforward. I did that sometimes just to cut some time. And there's more. For some reason my camera is not focusing as well as it did in the previous footage. Hold on, let me see if I can turn out light or something. It's just freaking out. Okay, hopefully it'll behave itself now. And let me just see if I can get through these a little bit faster, but we are approaching the end, sort of. There we go. I recall I had a lot of fun with doing the digital coloring on these. At that point, I had established a workflow for my digital stuff that I was pretty comfortable with, so it was fun working on these. Although I did always go overboard on the details, obviously, as you can see. I think this one must have been just a pencil commission. Yeah, and this is 2010, so yes. I was 20 at this point. Interesting character. Oh yeah, and then I guess I must have been craving a blast from the past because I started doing the freaking tiny paper cutout thing again. I thought I moved on from it, but apparently not. This one's from 2011. Really like those details on the jacket there. Pretty cool. Oh, there's a rare colored commission with probably some Copics, Prismacolors, gel pens. I've always liked using a ton of mixed media. This could be a little bit older actually because I signed it, but I don't know. I'm trying to remember, like, it's hard to date these because my improvement definitely slowed down with the years, and around that time, I don't know, it could have been like a few years stretch, looked pretty similar, so yeah. Oh, very cute. I've got a lot of couple commissions. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, most of these are couple commissions. Like this one. I really enjoyed drawing couple commissions. I'm struggling to think of any more commentary, but oh yeah, one thing I remember is when I was working on these, I used a lot of this screen tone like texture as a finishing touch on the digital rendering, which I really liked, and I did a lot of fade outs with I don't know how to explain it, but you'll probably be able to see it if I put the digital on the side. But yeah, that's actually something I kind of want to bring back a bit, like this textured finishing touch. 2010. Honestly, like, I think this is pretty cute overall, but what is happening with that face? Like, yeah, I still was plagued by the poor decision making of putting the mouth like way too low in the face. What is with that? I don't understand. Otherwise though, not bad. This is more of a rough sketch. I like seeing these rougher ones that I didn't go in for a secondary cleanup with like a thin pencil. I think they have a lot more character. Oh, these are so cute. This girl commissioned me so many times. I am so grateful for her endless support over the years, especially back then. It was incredible to get so many commissions from the same person, and I always loved working on her characters. She had a big variety of characters too. It was pretty cool. On the same ear. I remember this one was driving me crazy with too many details. It was definitely overboard. Believe it or not, I have my limits when it comes to details. This one was a lot of fun to clean up. And also, as you can see, I definitely was kind of adventurous when it comes to poses. Like, I never, well, at least I went out of my way to try and never draw the same pose twice when it came to commissions, so that they don't end up all looking the same. And so that resulted in all these twisted gems like this that anatomically make no sense, but hey, at least, you know, I tried to make the poses different every time. So, oh yeah, and this one too. It's I don't even know what's going on here, but it was a bold move. Oh man. Oh yeah, this is actually another one of those Urnia banners. I think it was some sort of winter event they had going on the website. And by that time, I've drawn these characters so many times, they kind of started to feel like my OCs, but not quite, because I never thought of any backstories for them, so there was always a degree of separation. And I think this must have been like from some of the last, actually never mind. The last batch of commissions I did was like a couple of years ago, so this was way older than that. But I started to go a little bit simpler, and I like that. I actually like this one a lot, how it turned out in the digital format. Plus the character is cool. I love that outfit. And this one was so much fun to work on. I love Halloween themed stuff. This is somebody's original character. Very, very cute. I'm actually pretty excited to look at the digital versions of these when I go to edit this video. I'm sure it'll be fun to see them side by side. And this one of my favorites, and it got totally ruined by the coffee stains, but that's okay, it's just a sketch. So yeah, that is the end of this pile, and I believe I just have one more pile left, and I don't even think it consists of commissions. I labeled it as random 2010 to 2012. This, for instance, is actually my friend. And I don't know, I just drew her for fun because, I don't know, she's a very stylish person and we were very bored in our first year. I did stuff like that back in the day. I kind of wish I did that more. It would have been nice to see things like this of more of my friends. And this is actually backtracking, so I know for sure that this was from the first year of Sheridan because that's when I met my friend. But this must have been like at least a year before that. A year to a year and a half, because when I went to the previous university, I remember that's kind of how I drew around then. Oh yeah, and these two are sketches for some prints. Probably some of the last like digital fan art prints that I made. I mean, I can't be sure of that statement, but from what I can remember, yeah. As you can see here, I also just cleaned up the face and I couldn't be bothered with the rest. These are characters from Panty and Stocking. What a crazy show. Yeah, by this point, yeah, it must have been like 2010. The faces that I drew finally like evened out, but then I was doing the Tumblr nose thing. I don't even know like where it just became a trend on Tumblr, and I picked it up, as did many people that I followed, and eventually I ditched it for good reason. And this must have been like around that time. Oh, this could be actually a little bit earlier, maybe 2019. I was like obsessed with these two characters from D. Greyman, and I just drew a lot of fan art of them for some reason. I really liked the idea of them, how they were two halves of the same person and they interacted with each other. It was just the cutest thing, so I was obsessed. I mean, it was a little nutty also, this particular obsession, but I mean, it was a long time ago. I don't know what to tell you. Still cute. I don't know what this is. This is not a commission, it's just random. Yeah. But this is when I started to actively adopt the new Cosmic Spectrum artist handle. It was new around this time. Like, I went by different handles before then. And I made the very unfortunate decision of calling my Instagram account Frying Toilet the first time I made it. But at some point, thankfully you could change the account name back then. I don't know if you still can. You probably can once or something, but yeah, I changed it in an appropriate, in a timely manner, thankfully, that it did not stick. This was years ago. Oh yeah, and this, what you're looking at now, I think it was like for some university assignment that had something to do with type design, but as you can see, I had way less interest in type design, and I just wanted to draw something cool in the background, which was not part of the assignment, so that's what I did. I was very, very into like animal skulls and the idea of decay, so I was kind of just stuck on that for some time. Yeah, it's kind of neat to see something like this because you almost I almost never see myself draw anything other than characters, so this is something different, which is cool. But anyways, moving on. Yeah, I believe that was also some sort of assignment. I don't know, honestly not that into this one. You can tell that I didn't really care about what I was drawing. I mostly just zoned out to do a bunch of details, but I guess it's kind of neat. Yeah, but it's not my jam at all. Okay. You know what? I think this is it. So I'm just gonna move this pile back into view. As you can see, it is a ton of paper, and yeah, so I finally concluded my old art sketchbook tour, sort of. But there's definitely a lot more old art that I have not shown you here, and even from earlier than when I was 15. So eventually I will pull that out and show you some of my Sailor Moon art from way back in the day. But I think that's going to be a different video. And like I mentioned, all of these were like commissions mostly. There were a couple of personal pieces here and there, but mostly was just like either my very early client work or commissions, which is why they were in the same pile. But I still have a ton of stuff that is of my characters, and I think eventually I will comb through that stuff and show you some of it. I'm actually thinking of maybe doing some more draw this again challenge type of videos, because that was a lot of fun, and there's definitely a lot of stuff that I would like to revisit now in the present, because I would be interested in seeing how I tackle those things now that I have gained a substantial amount of skill since then. Yes, anyways, I'm just rambling at this point. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed looking at my ancient art, and I figured it was time to make something like a casual video, because I've been doing a lot of like semi-scripted point form, lots of I don't know, typing involved and editing content with some art tips and whatnot. So I really missed just talking about art with no severe pressure. By severe pressure, I mean like when I do those tip related videos, I really want to make sure that they're helpful, so I usually end up spending a lot more time on them. But after conducting the poll and asking you guys what you like, I figured a lot of you actually do like the rambly ones where I just talk about things as I show them to you, so I figured I'd do one of those, and I'm definitely going to do more of these eventually, and I will give you some updates on my project soon. But anyways, in the meantime, thank you for watching my video, and welcome to all the new subscribers, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!